All right, back with another tier list as we're going to be doing the most devastating Super Bowl losses tier list here. So these are the ones that we're just doing every Super Bowl loss since 2007. We're going to go in chronological order from 2007 forward. Only four categories. Usually I do more. I figured four would be enough. We'll see how that goes. But it's the ones that keep you up at night, the ones that you still can't watch highlights, the still devastating, and then you're fine at the bottom. So those are the four categories. And I specifically wanted to go back to 2007 because, I just had, the Patriots, 18-1 season. Like, to me, that's up there with the most devastating losses of all time. I know that they won a ton of Super Bowls, so we don't really view it that way, but, like, a chance to go undefeated, I think you kind of knew that just wasn't going to happen again. Like, while maybe there was hope it could happen again, that felt like a once in a generation type of opportunity that they let slip through their fingers. To me, this is a keeps you up at night. Sure, the Patriots ended up being fine. Patriots will appear twice more on this list, but to me, this is probably the most devastating, maybe one of the most devastating Super Bowl losses ever. Also, I should mention, if you're interested, I have a movie channel where I talk about movies. It's a lot of fun. The link is in the description for that if you're interested. I do some like movie reviews, stuff like that. But let's move on to next year. The Arizona Cardinals, who lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers in a really close game, and it's one where through large parts of the game, the Cardinals outplayed the Steelers. It was such a good Cinderella story of the Cardinals, who no one thought was going to make it that far, nearly was able to pull it off, and really just haven't, they have had a conference championship appearance since then, so I wouldn't say they haven't come close, but they certainly haven't been a consistent dominant force the way you might look other ways. I think this is I'm in between still can't watch highlights or still devastating. I think because they haven't won one, I'm going to put it in this tier of, I'm sure if you're a Cardinals fan, because it was such a good game, you'll probably still watch at least the Larry Fitzgerald big play, towards the end. That one was good, but that one's got to sting given that they haven't won one. So then 2009 came around. The Colts lost to the Saints. Now, the Colts had won a Super Bowl only a couple years prior, and they also, I think we thought they were going to be winning more at the time. I don't think we realized that would be the last time that they still haven't made it back, which is kind of crazy to think about. Peyton Manning made it back, but the Colts did not. So I think at the time it was sort of still devastating. It's always devastating, and again, none of these are going to be not devastating. They're all, you're losing a Super Bowl. That's going to be devastating. But I think we thought they would come back. They had won one already. They still had Peyton Manning. I don't think it was the most devastating loss in the world. Also, I don't know why it's like giving a little space there. I don't like that. But anyway, the Steelers are kind of in a similar situation where they go to, they lose to the Packers, and it was kind of one of those weird things where they had, won one not too long, actually just 2 years ago. So they actually had won a couple in recent memory, and there was no reason to believe this would be the last time they'd get to the Super Bowl. So I actually think I'm going to put this all the way into you're fine category. Again, losing a Super Bowl is losing a Super Bowl. It's never fun, but it's, as far as losing Super Bowls go, I think that's one you can kind of live with a little bit more. Then you have the Patriots again. This is Patriots Part 2, where they lost to the Giants the second time. This one wasn't as devastating because there wasn't the, undefeated season. They would have loved to get their revenge on the Giants, I'm sure, and losing a Super Bowl still sucks. And at this point, it had been a minute. Not like forever, but, it had been 7 years since they had last won a Super Bowl, so it's not like I know Trust me, I know a lot of fan bases are saying, oh my God, 7 years, how did they manage to survive? I think I'm going to put this in the still devastating. I think this was a tough one, but not the toughest. And there's even a space in between the Colts and Patriots logo there. What's going on? Anyway, next on the list is the 49ers, a team that appears 3 times on this list. They've made the Super Bowl 3 times in this stretch, won at 0 of them. The first time was against the Joe Flacco-led Ravens, where this was a tough stretch for the 49ers because they went to 3 straight conference championship games. This was the closest they got to winning and came really close. I mean, they were potentially a pass away, or maybe if they ran the ball, it could have been a rush away from a victory. It was a great game. It ended up being a great game, but they weren't able to win. I don't know. I'm conflicted on this. That game itself was very devastating. I do think that it's another one of those situations where, like, I think the most devastating losses are the ones where you're like, that was our shot, and that hasn't really been the case for the 49ers, but, like, they still, it's still a very devastating Super Bowl, and with the loss itself, I think I'm going to put that in still can't watch highlights. I think that would be tough for a 49ers fan. But yeah, then you have the Broncos, which that was just a disaster. Things went so off the rails that, like, I feel like it's almost not even as devastating because of how bad it went. They did win it 2 years later, so, like, I'm sure if you're a Broncos fan, it doesn't really keep you up at night the way it might if you weren't able to win it. So I think I'm going to put it in the still devastating tier. The fact that the game itself was really over from the beginning, and the fact that you won it a couple years later, like, in fact, actually, I'm going to put it in year fine. That was again, losing a Super Bowl always sucks. That wasn't the toughest way to lose one. Then the Seattle Seahawks, which that might have been the toughest way to lose one in terms of, like, how they actually lost it. They thought there would be maybe a dynasty going back-to-back, beating Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in back-to-back Super Bowls. They were, again, a play away from potentially doing it, and it felt like they were going to do it. It was only second down, and then, of course, the Malcolm Butler pick six happens. They famously do not run the ball. This is one that has to keep you up at night for the Seahawks, right? And especially the fact that, like, the franchise just hasn't been the same since this play. I'll be honest, I don't know if they would have won another Super Bowl even had they gotten the touchdown, right, and won the game. And even if they scored a touchdown right away, maybe the Patriots, with a little bit of time, could have kicked the field goal, although it would have been tough because Belichick didn't call a timeout. That's one that's tough. They felt like they had it in the grass. They were also up 10 points in the fourth quarter. People forget about that. Brady threw 2 touchdowns to put them up. That's just a tough one. Next up, the Carolina Panthers, who I feel people forget that was a competitive game against the Denver Broncos. It wasn't a very high-scoring game, but when there was the famous Cam Newton that doesn't fall on the football, that was a one-score game with, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Also, complete side note, I honestly do believe Cam Newton when he says that he just kind of was reacting to the ball and thought it was going to bounce out. Because, say what you want about Cam Newton. He's never been a guy to shy away from contact. I think he screwed up. But either way, that was a tough one, especially because the Panthers were pretty heavily favored to win this Super Bowl. People thought they were going to win. They had just kind of blown out everybody up until that point. So that was a tough one. I think this is in still can't watch highlights. Again, the fact that they haven't won a Super Bowl is going to be a little bit, going to add to the devastation as well. So that feels fair for me. And then, is there even a discussion here with the Atlanta Falcons? Yeah, that keeps you up at night. That's one of those I'm a believer in for the most part. Even the other keeps you up at night ones. If you lose in the Super Bowl, that's still a great thing as a fan. Like, you got to see your team win all those big games. Sure, they weren't quite able to get it done, but it's still like, hey, you know what? I'm still like, as a fan of, my football team has never lost in the Super Bowl, but I've had, I'm a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. I've seen them lose in this Stanley Cup final. I've seen the Tampa Bay Rays lose in the World Series multiple times. I still look back fondly on those seasons, even if the ending wasn't so good. I think if you're a Falcons fan, you can't even look fondly on that season, right? The ending was so bad. It's like a movie that has a stupid twist ending that completely ruins the rest of the film. It's just, that was tough. I feel bad for every Falcons fan that had to live through that night. That's tough. Next up, we have another New England Patriots. This is the third and final Patriots one. The Patriots had plenty of wins here as well, so wasn't too bad. And they were just coming off of an incredible victory against the Atlanta Falcons, and they had won. They had won 2 in the past 4 years. This is year fine. The game itself was a bit tough. Had a chance to beat the Eagles, but you're fine. The Rams. This was a tough one. They have won a Super Bowl, but it had been 17 years. Now, again, they would go on to win one a few years later. That certainly takes the sting out of it a little bit. But especially with how they laid an egg in the Super Bowl, I think that was kind of the most disappointing thing, is just how poorly that offense played. Again, there was no point where you thought that they were going to win really in that Super Bowl. So I think I'm just going to put it in still devastating. Again, it's always tough to lose a Super Bowl, but they ended up okay. It's not quite year fine, but I think that they were, it worked out all right for the Rams. We'll just say that. Then we have the second of the three 49ers Super Bowl losses. This is the one that they lost to the Chiefs the first time when, they were up 10 points with 7 minutes left. Like, they had it. I'm in between keeps you up at night and still can't watch highlights. I'm going to say keeps you up at night because I thought they were going to win it. I really did. I thought they were going to win it. When they got that interception with 10 minutes left, already up 2 scores against the Chiefs, I'm like, there you go. But, just couldn't get anything going offensively. The Chiefs were all of a sudden driving the, 3rd and 15 play. That's just one that I felt like, I think most people kind of thought that the Chiefs were going to win this Super Bowl, so maybe heading into it, it wasn't the most devastating loss, but like that's one that just, after it was over, you have to just be thinking, if you're a Niners fan, like, man, we were right there, how could we not get it done? Then you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who got destroyed by the Buccaneers. Now, the Chiefs, in a 6-year stretch, have won 3 Super Bowls, so they're doing, actually it's a 5-year stretch. They've won 3 Super Bowls. So this was, that's I kind of didn't fully realize they've been to 4 out of the last 5 Super Bowls, winning 3 of them. This game was over. It actually was a little bit competitive. Like, people forget that the Chiefs scored late in the second quarter to make it a 1-score game, but then they gave up like a last second, a big pass interference to Mike Evans with like a minute left that allowed the Buccaneers to get a touchdown. So that was, that's when things kind of got off the rails. It was off the rails. They had injuries that you can kind of use as an excuse. They're fine, and it went okay. Then you have the Cincinnati Bengals, who lost to the Rams. This one's interesting because when they lost, I don't think Bengals fans were thinking like, what a blow, because sure, you losing a Super Bowl always sucks, but it's like, wow, we made the Super Bowl. Like, we were supposed to be a bad team, and we nearly won it all this year. We now have a superstar quarterback in Joe Burrow. We have a couple superstar wide receivers. We're going to be good for a long time. I think now you look at it, and Joe Burrow's rookie deal is essentially ended at this point, and you're kind of like, well, like, it would have been nice to pull that one off. That was the one time, getting past the Chiefs isn't so easy. They had a real opportunity and blew it late. I think it's going to be still devastating for me. Again, because of the fact that the future was so bright right after losing it, you're not that devastated, but it's devastating. It was more than just a Super Bowl loss. They really had an opportunity, and they've also never won one. So that's how I view that. Then we have the Eagles, which is another one where it's like, okay, a lot of people did think the Eagles were going to win that Super Bowl. I believe they were favored, if I remember correctly, but it felt kind of like a coin flip, really, heading into that Super Bowl. I think if you're an Eagles fan, you felt like, hey, who knows? We'll see what happens. They, again, never at any point I was like, oh, they're going to win. It was a close game. They definitely could have won. They were a play or two from making it happen, but weren't quite able to get it done. And they have won one not too long ago, so I don't think it's quite year fine, but I think still devastating feels fair for the Eagles as well. And then finally, another 49ers Super Bowl loss. To me, this is another keeps you up at night. So poor 49ers have had can't watch highlights and 2 keeps you up at night. I think this is fair because of the fact that, how devastating is it to be right there, that muffed punt? When that muffed punt happened, like, my jaw was on the floor, like, oh my God, is this really happening again? And like, each step of the way, they were so close. They actually played really well in that Super Bowl, and it just makes you think, like, are they ever going to get it done? That's a tough one. There were so many little plays that you think about, like, oh man, if Trent McDuffie doesn't get through unblocked and doesn't tip that pass, is this do they get the first down and run out the clock and kick the field goal when time expires instead of with 2 minutes left, which allowed the Chiefs to go down the field and tie it? Like, so many moments. So yeah, a lot of fun being a 49ers fan, but also some really tough endings to the season, it seems like, is the main way I view this. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.